Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we look at some of the best value whiskies there are to get. Run the video. Alright then folks, let's get into today's video, shall we? And if you have not already, go over to the Whiskey Cove's website, thewhiskeycove.square.site, and go check us out over there. We have a couple of different things going on over there, trying to work on some single barrels possibly in the future, so keep an eye out for that as well. And also go and check out the premium the Whiskey Cove glass range as well. Some really affordable whiskey glasses inscribed with the Whiskey Cove emblem as well. So they're just super cool, close to cost as we can get them, and an excellent way to support the channel. And if that's not your thing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because ultimately that is the best way for you folks at home who haven't already subscribed to support the channel. So we appreciate all the subscriptions, all the likes, all the comments. Thank you so much folks, I always really appreciate it. So as we have mentioned earlier on in the title, these are, so if you're someone who watches the channel quite a bit or has watched it for quite a while, you might hear me say something from time to time, and that is, this is some of the best whiskey, the best value for money in whiskey, or this bourbon's one of the best value for money that there is. And I constantly say that quite a lot on the channel. So I thought, hell, you know, let's put a video together talking about some of the best value whiskeys that there is in bourbon, just generally. And as a bit of a rule of thumb, I try to stay away from anything too allocated. So really just looking at what we have, there's nothing too allocated. Maybe the first two, it kind of depends what state you're in. Some of the traveling that I've done through the US, which is quite a lot at this point. I think I've hit like 45 states, and I've kind of mostly done liquor hunting in all states. So I feel like I have a decent grasp on what's out there. So the couple that you might not be able to get in some states, but for the most, this appeals to the masses there. And it's called 10 whiskies, I wanted to call it 10 whiskies that are the best value that there are out there. But then there was 2 more I wanted to add, so now it's 12, so we kind of changed the last minute there as well. So let's just dive straight into it. Number one's an obvious one because I talk about it like, I feel like every episode I talk about this bottle almost, or at least every stall. There's the Buffalo Trace single barrels. Pick these up generally between about $27 to about $32. I don't like to pay more than $30 for them, but lately in Colorado we've been seeing like the 1.75s come in on store picks, and also I've been seeing these guys as well, which is these pint-sized bottles, which you generally don't see that much. But we're seeing them in Colorado quite a lot, and this is like I said, 45% ABV, $27 to $32, and it's a Buffalo Trace, a single barrel as well, which is awesome. Yes, the Buffalo Trace normally is just a straight bourbon whiskey, so that's multiple hundreds and hundreds of barrels, but with these guys, it's a single barrel as well. And to be honest, and this is a bit of a claim here as well, I probably prefer these Buffalo Trace single barrels to Elmer T. Lee single barrels. I've only tried 2 Elmer T. Lees, so that's not the greatest kind of amount of whiskeys to try to be able to gauge a good interest on it. However, the 2 that I've tried, I probably would still prefer this instead. So if you're hunting for an Elmer T. Lee, just hunt for these instead. So that was bottle number 1. So for bottle number 2, and staying with Buffalo Trace, another bottle on this list is quite obvious, and probably, I would say this is probably the hardest bottle to get on this list for a lot of people. In Colorado, it's pretty available for the most part for around $40. The price is getting up there now, but for about MSRP, I think still should be around $35 to $40, and you're getting a 10-year age stated Buffalo Trace whiskey. Yes, it's not everybody's cup of tea for the most part. A Buffalo Trace product with a 10-year age statement for $40 is pretty insane value in today's market, because if you think of other craft distilleries or other distilleries in general, to get a 10-year age statement bottle, like Jack Daniels do this for like $80, and they're a very macro distillery. So if anybody could get close to this, that it would be those folks. There's one more bottle on this list that's kind of the same value for money, and it shares the same age statement, which is coming up next. So with that being said, this is Eagle Rare, and this is the bottle number 2 of some of the best value for money in whiskey. So that other bottle, it says yes, and if you know, it is the Russell's Reserve 10. So it's a good alternative, personally, I recommend folks. If they're looking more for age statement, more for woodier notes, I would say this is a good alternative to that. Yes, the turkey palate to the Buffalo Trace palate is a lot different, but if you're looking for the age and you're looking for something that has a little bit more wood backbone, then I feel like this is a good alternative. I also feel like this might be a little bit more cheaper than Eagle Rare, because I don't think this jumped in price in the last year. I picked this up for $30 actually, a little while ago. I've also had other ones before as well. 45% ABV, much like the Eagle Rare, and again shares that 10-year age statement there on the front. And then I feel like this is probably about $35 right now. So again, insane value for money, a 10-year whiskey for $35. This one and the Eagle Rare, if you're looking for that age statement, these are probably the best two you're able to find at a lower price point that you can get. You're not always gonna find the Eagle Rare, but you pretty much can always find the Russells in 10. So definitely get this if you have not tried it. And that was bottle number 3 on this list. So for bottle number 4, we're gonna jump quickly back to Sazerac, and that is gonna be Early Times bottled and bond, 1 litre for $22. Insane value for money. Some folks say that when they transitioned out of the Brown Forman, the black caps, that it lost a little bit of this sparkle, kind of lost a little bit of the flavor there. But for me, I didn't feel like there was too much of a difference, negligible, if any. And I still really like the bottles now that they're made by Sazerac as well. And again, like I said, 1 litre bottle for like, and it's bonded as well. I should mention that it is a bottled in bond whiskey, 50% ABV or 100 proof. But a 1 litre bonded Sazerac product for 25 or less is, yeah, if there's one bottle on this list that really probably takes it home as the number 1, I think this one is very hard to beat. If you haven't already tried it, you have to find an Early Times bottled in bond. So that was bottle number 4. Bottle number 5, and we're going back to the Wild Turkey. Well, we went there with Russells to begin with, and now we're going to Wild Turkey 101. I'm not going to beat a dead horse to death, because this bottle has been very much covered by mostly all the whiskey connoisseurs, aficionados, YouTubers, whatever you like. This is just a cornerstone of the whiskey, of the bourbon industry. If you're looking for a cheap, inexpensive, always available sipping whiskey, cocktail whiskey, whiskey with ice, look no further than Wild Turkey 101. 101 representing the proof of this bottle, so 50.5% ABV. Yes, you're getting a little bit more of that spicier notes with Wild Turkey, and maybe a touch of peanut. Some people pick that up, some people don't. So it's really versatile, stands up just about anything. I kind of would put this maybe a little bit less than Early Times bottled in bond, just because you're getting a 1 litre with that guy. But nevertheless, always available, Wild Turkey 101, bottle number 5. So then we have 7 left, and we're going to dabble in the rye a little bit. I wanted to call it 10 bourbons, which are the best value for money in whiskey. However, there was a couple of ryes that I just couldn't pass on. So we're going to talk about a couple of those now. The first one, this is much like the Eagle Rare actually. This was probably one of the other ones I was thinking about that are probably hard to get for a lot of people out there. And this is a hard to get bottle in Colorado, but for a lot of the rest of the US, you can kind of find this bottle. And that is Willet 4-Year Rye. Really great rye whiskey. One of the first rye whiskeys I've tried. I do get some like, not toothpaste spearmint, but more of like a vanilla candy spearmint note on this. And then you get that typical rye bread spice. If you've ever had like a Reuben and you've had like the proper rye bread and you have those like rye kind of grains on top, pulling off, chew on it a little bit, you get some of those notes in this whiskey as well. And like I said, this isn't really available in Colorado. It comes through the state once, maybe twice a year, and you're going to be paying about $80 to $85. But for a lot of the US, it sits more about the $50 mark. This is pretty much available in Kansas. You can find it in Missouri, Louisiana. Seldomly comes into Wyoming. I've seen it in Arizona there as well. I've seen it in California. I've seen it sprinkled on the East Coast in Florida, New Jersey, New York, and Maine also get it as well. I'm sure Kentucky gets it. I'm sure Tennessee gets it. I'm sure some other states get it as well. But that price will be a little bit different. But if you can find them for $50, and if I can give you a tip, if you can find them for $50, and if you can find the ABV to be 55% or above, then definitely get it. Because there's most of them range between 50 and 55, but every so often you'll find some just a little bit higher. I think I have a few which are like 56 and 56.5, and they are some of the better ryes, or especially better Willet ryes that I've tried. So definitely get that, and this was bottle number 6 on this list. Number 7, and this was the Whiskey Cove's Whiskey of the Year for 2022. That is Sagamore Spirits Double Oaks. Phenomenal bottle of whiskey. banana nut bread with some almond spread on top as well, with some caramel sauce drizzled. A perfect dessert whiskey, but it has enough ABV and enough rye spice to cut through some of those sweeter notes there as well. This is coming in, I believe it, what is it, 48.3% ABV or 96.6 proof, and it is, what can I say? It's the Whiskey Cove whiskey of the year for 2022. Enough should be said with that alone. Availability in Colorado is easy. I got this guy from Costco for around $50, so if you're a Costco member and your Costco sells alcohol, maybe keep an eye out for that there as well. Also as well, around the state in Colorado, I've seen it for about $60. I would pay more for $60 because it's a phenomenal whiskey. If this had a Buffalo Trace sticker on it, or if this had something like single barrel special, or just some sort of special release once a year by a distillery, people will go crazy for this stuff, and rightly so, because it is phenomenal. So if you can get this, definitely pick it up and you will not be disappointed. I know it's not quite rye season yet, but as those nights get a little bit colder, this will be one of your go-tos, and I can assure you of that. That was bottle number 7. Bottle number 8, and this is the last rye on this list, I promise, for all those non-rye drinkers out there. And this is a bottle that I have many different variations of, because they come in many different variations. That is the High West Double Rye, and that is the single barrel picks. You might be able to see a bunch over here and up on the top here, and I also have some other scattered around here. Up until recently, these have always sat around MSRP from about $45 to $50. But lately in Colorado, I've seen that price jump to about $70, which is understandable because High West have put their prices up on the High West Midwinter Nice Drum. They put the prices up on the Boo Rye as well. So it was only a matter of time before they put the price up on these guys. I still think even at $65 and some change, that is still incredible value for money, because let's take a look what exactly that we're getting with this one. So this one is a cognac finish double rye, and the age time on this is 1 year and 3 months. So this is a cognac finish. Also up on the shelf here, I have like grape brandy, I have Spanish brandy, I have barreled Manhattan, I have maple syrup, I have Merlot, I have a bunch of different finishes. And all of them have been fantastic. I haven't found one yet that I don't like, and it's a really great one just to try something very unique and different. You maybe have some whiskey fans or whiskey nerds that come down to the Whiskey Cove, or maybe you want to take a different style of bottle to a housewarming party or something like that. These are sitting around $50 to $60, used to be, but now more like $65, are still great value for money and always a great bottle to bring to a party or as a gift there as well. If you haven't already found them, go out and get them. Yes, like I said, availability might be a little bit limited. It's just whenever your store is able to get in the barrel picks version of these. So on the East Coast, I'm not sure what that availability looks like with the High West stuff. But here in Colorado and other states as well, you're going to be able to pick them up there as well. And hopefully that MSRP price sits more closer to 50 for you folks at home. Also the peated Scotch one as well. Maybe that's the only one I don't like actually. For whatever reason, I feel like that peated Scotch just doesn't work for me. However, I still appreciate it for what it is. So that was bottle number 8, 4 left. So we are going back to Wild Turkey, and that is Russell's Reserve single barrel picks. Much like the High West picks as well, these are excellent value for money. And sorry, much like the High West picks, these also have seen a price increase in the last year or so. So they used to sit at around about $59.99, which is excellent value for money, because they are around, usually set around between 8, 9, 10, and 11 years old. The oldest one I've seen of these is an 11 year, which is this one actually. And it is coming in at 55% ABV or 110 proof. So you get into that kind of that barrel proof range with that. I really like that kind of area. Between 50 and 60% kind of where I jam with that. This is Warehouse F Floor 4, and like I said, it is an 11-year-old single barrel. So $60, it was excellent value for money. You had the age statement, proof there as well, and just like a really cool spread on the back. However, now I feel like it's kicked up to 80, maybe even $85, albeit that's mostly been in places like Total Wine seem to up their prices more so than the rest of the state of Colorado. I think these still kind of sit at probably about 75 in independent stores, but I think Total Wine have even kicked them up even more just because they're just such good sellers. If you're able to get them, go and pick one up at 8, 9, 10 or an 11 year. I still think they're excellent value, coming in around $80. Don't pay more than that. I think you're doing yourself a disservice by getting them for more than $80. However, that was the Russell's Reserve single barrel pick. Coming in at bottle number 10 on this list, and this isn't a bourbon, no, this is not a rye, this is a Tennessee whiskey. And for the subscribers who watch a lot of the content, you kind of knew this was coming. But we also have 2 more left after this, and they're pretty special bottles as well there as well. However, Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey, this is the single barrel proof. This one is coming in at 64.9%. It shares some similar notes to the Sagamore Double Rye actually. It's like a warm caramel bread and caramel sauce, maple syrup, very dessert forward. But it's just that proof. That proof, it does such a good job at cutting through the syrup, like the syrup flavor profile of this Jack Daniel's barrel proof. And for 65% whiskey, it drinks so easy. It's very dangerous whiskey. And I've tried a couple of these different single barrels now, and they can have very subtle variations, but they are all of such a high standard as well. I get sometimes maybe some banana, not banana runts, but more like a fresh, warm banana from like a banana bread or something like that. And then I also get maybe a touch of bubble gum there as well. There's those typical Jack Daniel's notes, but just sweeter with a little bit more proof. Very approachable there as well. Costco sell these for $59.99. Great value for money right there. Mostly you'll see them sitting on shelves. They're very available across the US for the most part. I would say they probably will go normally about $60 to $70 at that point. They also don't just do the single barrel picks. They also just do them just regularly without being picked by a store. You'll just see them without like a medallion on or whatever it is that the store uses to show that it's a single barrel pick. So if you're able to get one, pick one of these up, definitely. I think this is an excellent value for money in whiskey and an excellent choice and an excellent bottle of whiskey there as well. And much like the Wild Turkey 101, very versatile. Cocktail, ice cube, neat. It's good to go at any time. Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. 2 left, and we are going to do Old Forester 1910. Yes, this list would not be complete without Old Forester 1910. If you want a toasted whiskey, you want a double-barreled whiskey, you want a whiskey with some of those sweetier, toastier notes, look no further than Old Forester 1910. Not allocated, always available, and it's going to be costing you about $50 to $60. ABV is a little lower on this guy. This is 46.5 proof. As most toasted whiskies are, they generally sit in that range. I'm thinking Elijah Craig Toasted, which is about 45% ABV, and I think the Michter's Toasted that I have as well is all around that 85-90% proof there as well. This guy is just a little bit more sweeter for me than those other aforementioned whiskies. And it does have those toasty notes, it does have that barrel proof, the double barrel kind of marshmallow note you get with a lot of toastier whiskies, but it's just much more approachable, and it just has a little bit more going on than the Michter's and even the Woodford and the Elijah Craig as well. So this is definitely my pick out of the toasted whiskies, and it's available. It's on shelves. So don't do yourself a disservice. Go and get this if you're looking for a toasted whiskey. That was Old Forester 1910. So if you've stayed the course so far, thanks so much. I appreciate it. So that leaves us with one last bottle of whiskey. Sticking with Brown-Forman, sticking with Old Forester, I had 2 options here. First option was Old Forester 1920, which is a phenomenal bottle of whiskey in its own right, and an excellent value for money there as well. And it definitely would have been on this list, but I couldn't have put 3 Old Forester bottles on this list. And again, much like the Eagle Rare, much like the Willet Rye, this is also maybe borderline a hard bottle to find, but I feel like it does drop multiple times throughout the year through multiple stores in Colorado. I think I've seen this bottle heard about this bottle dropping about 10 different times as stores have done their single barrel picks. That's a spoiler. It is going to be the Old Forester single barrel strengths. So like I said, I could put the 1920, but I feel like this is the 1920 on steroids. Hopefully you folks at home can forgive me for maybe it being a little bit harder to find than the 1920. So if you can't find this, definitely get the 1920. But if you can find these guys, like I said, It's 1920 on steroids. You get that dessert, that beautiful bready, caramel, sweet maple syrup, cereal grain kind of sweeter nose, but you have that proof. Yes, you might not recognize the proof as like heat to begin with, but when you taste it and you get a bit of sweetness and then it doesn't overwhelm your mouth with sweetness, you get a heat. That's a good thing because it cuts through that sweetness. You don't want all of one thing when it comes to whiskey, or at least I don't. I don't want all of one thing. I want a nice balance as much as I can. And I think that is what this offers. It offers that proof. I would say if there's one thing that it maybe does not offer as much as the proof, the sweetness, I would say maybe it could do with a little bit more spice. Not by way of heat, but just by way of baking spices. You can definitely still pick some up this year as well. MSRP is around $80. However, in Colorado, I have also seen this jump up to $90 at this point. Hopefully it doesn't go too much more than that, because for $70, for $80, for $90, it was excellent value for money. Don't get Booker's, get this. If you can't find George Sea Stag, get this. Any barrel proof allocated whiskey you can't find, and you can find these, get this every time. I'm doing myself a bit of a disservice as well, because I haven't actually opened the Old Forester single barrel rye barrel strengths, and I need to get into that, but I'm a very seasonal drinker when it comes to rye. So then that was some of the best value whiskeys that there are out there in the whiskey game. Yes, I know I'm using whiskey as a bit of a broad term in terms of, I could have put Scotch and Irish and stuff like that, but I still wanted them to be more bourbon centered, but there was just a couple on there that just had to be on there. So as we drink through the world's whiskeys, one glass at a time, cheers.